Okay, the video stopped, but as you can see, this was after I revved the car up. Let me see if this can come into focus. After I revved the car up for about 30 seconds and had my foot on the pedal, I had normal switching with the upstream oxygen sensors. But at one point during me holding it at 1500 RPMs, it kind of flatlined at around 300 something millivolts for that third oxygen sensor. When I scroll down at the rest of the data, this is what the fuel trims look like. Bank 1 long term was at 5.5. It's adding a lot of fuel on that Bank 1. Bank 2 long term was at 3.9, which it was adding. But the short term fuel trims are pretty even and pretty normal, almost at a balanced state. It's that closed loop. And this was after I had revved it up and I took my foot off the gas for about a good minute, and the numbers had kind of like stabilized there to what you're seeing right here. So I can see that the long-term fuel trim for Bank 1 is adding fuel. So my assumption is, and I could be wrong, and I'm trying to put this video out here to see what people input may be on this particular situation. The long term on Bank 1 is at 5.5, is adding fuel. And the long term for Bank 2 is 3.9, but the short terms are pretty normal. So I'm wondering if this could be an injector problem, or is that third oxygen sensor downstream behind the converter just bad? There's no trouble code showing up for a bad oxygen sensor. Once again, this is a 2001 Oldsmobile Bravada with a 4.3 liter V6 Vortec engine in it. And I was told by a mechanic about a couple of years ago that my number 3 injector is either not firing fuel or it is firing, it might be partially clogged. When I did a systems test on the injectors, I shut each injector down. With all 6 injectors, one at a time, the RPMs dropped and it was a rough idle, even with that number 3 injector. So there is some fuel coming out of that injector. It has to be. And for the RPMs to drop down like that when I shut it down. So once again, these are the fuel trims. Long term for Bank 1 is kind of high. I couldn't really get the pulse width for the injectors. Couldn't get that information to show up. But this bar up here at the top is that downstream oxygen sensor graph reading. And this was after I ran it for about maybe 30 seconds at 1500 RPM. It just leveled out flat like that. It just leveled out flat and then it went up. So anybody have any input on this? Leave a comment below and let's see where it goes from there.